Hey guys, hello, welcome back, thank you so much. Cheers, cheers, thank you everyone, thanks for coming. This is my boy Greg, he's my sous chef.
What's up guys?
He helps me a lot.
Sometimes.
Okay. So I'm going to actually just go over some a ceviche preparation. I'm going to teach you a little bit about fish because...
Calling all cars, attention all cars.
Calling all cars. Thrill of car performance in your own car again and again.
Since the beginning, no human race has pressed on.
I believe that this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal before this decade is out of landing a man or more.
It's about pushing boundaries, a statement to the world and ourselves that mankind really can do anything.
It's been quite the journey.
In the end, it's all about the dream.
Hello and welcome to the inaugural Newport
Concours Motor Week. I'm sitting here with Tommy Kendall, world champion race car driver, and a very special co-host and chairman of this event.
That's true.
Jay Leno himself. Welcome, Jay.
Thanks.
And Newport resident.
And Newport resident.
Yeah. Well, here we are. Can you believe it? You've been involved with this for the last few months, and here it is come to life on a Friday here at the gathering.
Yeah, it's come together very well. You know, this is a great place for a concours because if you have a spouse that's not particularly interested in cars, there's other things to do here. You know, a lot of times I go to the Walmart parking lot on Saturday, which is fine for me because I'm walking around looking at cars, and friends that are not car people get bored to death. Here you've got museums, you've got mansions, you've got restaurants, you've got all kinds of things to do. It's a beautiful setting. It's kind of like Pebble Beach East, you know. In fact, in some ways, I think it's prettier.
Now, I was going to ask you how you ended up buying a house here, but I think you might have just answered that question. Was that something from Mavis?
Well, yeah, you don't get water in California. I mean, you don't get a house on the water. If you do, you have a house Pacific Coast Highway, then the water. I mean, here, you can get a house on the water for the same price as a condo on Wilshire Boulevard. And it's true. I mean, it really is. It's much less expensive. California is the most expensive state, real estate, taxes, everything. And it's beautiful, but it's crazy expensive. Here you can do it 10 cents on the dollar.
As we're set on the lawn of Doris Duke's estate, Rough Point, it just seems the obvious place to have an event like this. What's remarkable isn't that it's happening. It's remarkable that it didn't happen 25 years ago. Here's a little piece we put together about why Newport.
It's time for a gathering of automotive excellence to spread its wings to a beautiful town where the sound of the world's fastest, most unusual and valuable cars has yet to be heard. That town is Newport, Rhode Island, where luxury, sport, and history combine. Luxury can be defined in many ways, but in the Gilded Age of American industry, it was displayed by the mansions of some of America's notable families. Magnificent properties, each bigger than the next, lines the cliff walk along the wild Atlantic Ocean. And of course, they drove cars that represented style, elegance, power, and the latest technology. Sport is a part of the Newport lifestyle, from America's Cup sailing to the X Games, the first US tennis national championships in 1881, and polo and golf played since the turn of the last century. You cannot escape the passion for performance that exists here. With the first recorded race on an actual track run in 1896. History is alive in Newport. You feel it everywhere. From the historic downtown to the mansions on Bellevue Avenue. One of the highlights is the Audrain Automobile Museum, currently housing a world's first with a rare $200 million GM collection. There's just no other place like this town when it comes to luxury and sport. Set amongst the history that defines America, this is Newport.
Well, so was here at Doris Duke's estate, the whole spirit of the gathering is, you know, what would a garden party have looked like for Doris and her mates back 100 years ago from now?
Everybody would have lung cancer and be dead because she was, of course, the tobacco era. But, you know, I bought a 58 Lincoln. They've been sitting for 30 years. And there were four lighters and 4 ashtrays. Every person in the car was smoking. And it had the breezeway rear window. It said for smokers. For smokers, she's just going down, everybody's smoking, and the smoke is going out the back, and you're all dead. I haven't seen one cigarette since I've been here. No. It's fabulous.
And of course, the other thing about the house is, you know, we were walking around earlier, and you've got you've got the Packard out the front and the Cadillac, all Newport cars. And they were the state-of-the-art technology.
They were her cars.
They were her cars. And as we look around, McLaren's, Aston Martin's, the new Koenigsegg, you know, that's if the party was on today, like it is for her, that breed of people, that aristocracy, would have been driving the cars we admire now.
Say. And the fun thing is, you know, I don't know anything about art, but when I go in the beautiful art collection in this house, it's one of the most expensive art collections in private hands in America. You really appreciate it because you go, because when something's good, even if you're not interested in it, you know it's good.
Totally.
You know, and you can really enjoy it. I mean, the way the colors are. I mean, a lot of these paintings from the 1500s to 1600s. And it's kind of a nice break. I walk in and look at cars. My wife wanted to look in the mansion. Oh, it's some furniture and look at this and the architecture. And it's just a nice, I mean, it's a nice balance because I know sometimes you go to car things, you're just inundated.
Yeah.
You just want to get away from the car for 5 minutes, you know. And that's what's kind of fun. You can go do that, go look at, like my wife can go look in the mansion now. Well, I can go talk to the Porsche guys and decide whether my bolt should be CAD plated or chromium plated.
It's a good diversion.
Yeah, exactly.
Cars have only recently been appreciated in the same way as art. I mean, they've only been around for 130 years or something, and collecting and considering them an asset.
You're right. It's really only the last 30 or 40 years they're seen as artwork, as kinetic artwork that moves and breathes and goes down the street. You know, to see a car in motion for a lot of people now is like looking at, a painting, Gordon Crosby or one of those paintings of the period. You know, and it's fun to see. I mean, this is sort of the golden era. You know, I remember going to car shows in the 70s, and you see a Duesenberg with 2 snow tires, 1 white wall, 1 black wall, and it would win the award because, wow, that guy found old tires. Now, because the price of these things have gotten so high, it's become a multi-billion-dollar business. All these parts are now being made available, and with 3D printing, there's no part on a car you can't recreate today. So you can actually bring things that haven't run for 50 years back to life. I bought a car called the Premier in 1914, built in Indianapolis. The guy had it 35 years because he thought he could find a water pump for it, but he never did. So what I did was we took the old water pump, which is all cracked and broken, 3D scanned it, and printed a new one, and now it's on the road.
Unreal.
I mean, so that's the fascinating part.
Yeah, technology. So what's on the show today?
Well, I mean, today is just the gathering, but this is the kickoff of Motor Week, and so today we have the driving force behind not only this event, but the Audrain Automobile Museum. Nick Schorsch will be with us, and then we're going to switch gears. Right over here, we got a food demonstration going on. We have Ben Robinson, you might know from Below Deck, the Bravo Celebrity reality series, and then your cohort, Mr. Donald Osborne, the Concours d'Elegance chairman. And then at the end of the show, we have Zak Brown, straight from Sochi, Russia, the Formula One race. The CEO of McLaren Racing will be joining us at the end. So, and that is just today's, but this is only a part. This is Motor Week.
Right.
The Concours is a little bit later on.
And the fun thing about this is not a judge thing. People just bring their cars. So it isn't like judge to walk around, everybody's nervous. It's just like the most high-end cars and coffee you could possibly imagine.
Now, you were not into the new stuff for a while, and I can't remember, the Ford GT was the first car I remember.
No, that's not really true. I got a Carrera GT, I got the Ford GT, got a McLaren F1, got a P1. So I like all
actually, you
different
can drop
eras.
the mic now and just leave.
I like all eras of everything. Anything that rolls, explodes, and makes noise, I enjoy.
What here excites you of the new stuff?
Oh, there's all sorts of wonderful stuff here. I'm a huge McLaren fan. I think McLaren does a wonderful job. Huge Porsche fan. And it's fun to see, you know, there's a lot of Porsches from the 70s, the air-cooled models, guys have updated tastefully, kind of resto-modded. That's the one fun thing about Porsche, you know, they're expensive, but they're not rare. I mean, so you can find a hot rod one, you can find one exactly as it left the factory. You know, those guys that have the book with every piece of paper that came with it, you know, so it's kind of cool.
Well, so this is just one event. I jokingly said they need to change the name of the museum, the Audrain Museum, to the Audacious Museum, because the plan for this week in year one is truly remarkable. This is what's going on. Today is the gathering at Rough Point. And then tonight we have the John Legend concert. I've talked to a lot of locals that are really excited about that. Not really into cars, but excited John Legend's coming to town. Saturday, we have 2 things going on. One, it's the Tour d'Elegance along Ocean Avenue and past all the mansions on Bellevue, and also Cars and Coffee at Fort Adams. The tour will end at the Concours Village at the Tennis Hall of Fame. All 4 days, the Concours Village is live with all kinds of cool stuff to see. And then Saturday night at the Breakers Mansion, the Audrain Automobile Museum Gala, which is sold out. They've been doing this event to benefit the museum and its charities for the past 5 years. This year, first time as a part of Motor Week. And then Sunday, the Concours d'Elegance on the lawn at the Breakers.
And of course, remember that the Concours Village is open the whole time. But Nick, welcome.
Thank you.
Well, thanks for having us, Nick Schorsch, everybody, who is the, as you said, the driving force, but actually co-conspirators here.
We are.
You two and Donald, who's coming on a bit later.
It's a triple conspiracy.
It's a triple, three musketeers.
Thank heavens for this conspiracy.
But it's 2-to-1 bald guys.
There you go.
It's always 2-to-1.
You guys want to sit together?
Well, at least they don't get disturbed when the wind blows through the tent.
That's
You're
right.
saying all the money goes to the charity. It's not going to the hair club.
That's
Last night
right.
you
That's
said.
right. That's right. Exactly.
So, as you, I mean, this has been such a long, I mean, in reality, a very short time in the making, but the last 3 months have been so accelerated with the planning and the strategy. Last night at the dinner, you said it, you put together a great team of people that are working through around the clock to do it, but in the end, to start off with, rather, you do have to have a vision. And what was it that sparked it? What did you want this event to be between you guys?
Well, I think one thing is that we tried to look at other concours and see what, not what they did wrong, but like to me, I know why a lot of young people don't go to these things anymore. Because you walk in and you hear Jan and Dean, a little Deuce Coupe, fun by the beach, which is blaring constantly. And to them, it's like old people listening to rap. They can't turn the music off. Let's try and get more young people involved. So we started something called 30 Under 30, where people 30 years old and younger who've restored a car from whatever era they wish for less than $30,000.
Wow.
And this way, because a lot of kids come to these things and they go, how much is that Lamborghini? $500,000? And it's just discouraging when you got nothing, you know?
Yeah.
But when you show up with a 2002 BMW, maybe you bought fairly cheaply 5-6 years ago and you've been working on your garage, and you bring it to an event like this and you get recognized, I think it's great. It's great for self-esteem. It gives kids something to do other than watching Netflix, you know? And it's a lot of fun.
And I think that began, that kernel of an idea that Jay had really began us to look at how do we make everything more accessible? How do we make it more fun? How do we make it really for everybody? So half of the events here are no charge.
Wow.
All the events by the car companies, they're all open to the public. They're open every day. Our Motor Village is only $30. And at that point you can see, you can have food, you can see dozens and dozens of cars, you can go to symposiums. You can also look at our showcase of automobiles, which has everything from Ferraris to racing bikes and old bikes and rough Superiors, and so you really get a chance to feel everything. And the retrobilia is right there, so they have a chance to shop and look at things that aren't just cars and car related, but not just cars. And there's some real estate and other things that are being done there. So it's kind of a more open environment. So when you look at what we did, it became Motor Week pretty rapidly.
Yeah.
It went from a concourse on Sunday at the Breakers, which the Preservation Society was very gracious to allow us to do that on that lawn, which is iconic.
Totally.
Then the Duke Foundation here also allowed us to use this facility, and then it just started snowballing. Every museum in town's involved. I had a funny comment last night from the head of the Redwood Library, and Benedict came up and said, you know, I woke up this morning and there were 22 Lamborghinis on my lawn in front of the library. Think about that. How many new people am I going to get to come into the library because of Lamborghini? So it really has been everybody pitching in, the town, and it picked up speed, I have to say.
It's not just picked up speed, it's actually become, you're doing something, we're not casual observers because we've been so involved, but what I'm hearing from people is, and I think they'll find this out on Sunday, it's got the familiar elements. Donald's quite a traditionalist. You've got familiar elements, but you don't have to do it the same way it's always been done, just because it's always been done that. I mean, you kicked off last night with the VIP dinner. You know, John O'Hurley entertaining, great food, right there at Ochre Court. Another thing that you're doing is, I think here's the video from last night, you can see just, I mean, it was a beautiful setting. The rain came down a little bit, but...
It makes it better.
I was wondering, I said to the guys moving those cars, the two young guys had to move the McLarens out, and I said, well, you know, you've got to like a snow setting, I think. He said, oh, that's how we got them in, was, you know, having it on the all four-wheel drive traction on the way out. But it was a beautiful event.
Richard Meal did a great job.
Yeah.
Now talk about your connection, Nick. You came here as a boy with your dad.
I did.
And
I looked out of the Breakers, and my father said to me, you know, nobody would want to be in one of these gigantic houses on the water. You'd be all afraid. And I said, okay, I do. And he said, yeah, but you have to heat it. And I said, okay, sounds good. And after we had the opportunity, my wife, Shelley, and I found this great house, and we had the opportunity to be by the water. I'm a Pisces, and now we have our 5 children, our grandchildren, everybody's up here. We still have other places, but Newport is just a wonderful place with great history, and it's a real town. I mean, excuse me, it's not a town, it's actually a city from back in 1639.
You know, it's funny, when this city started, it was all the New York millionaires and billionaires. And over the years, it just was too far for New Yorkers to commute or Boston to commute. But now with .com millionaires and so many people being able to do work from home, suddenly a lot of people come here because with helicopters and other small jets and other forms, it's easy to commute to those. So the area's gone from being sort of, I think the low point was probably the 60s and 70s, where, you know, you had literally homeless people sleeping in all these mansions and all that kind of stuff, and went all the way down, and now it's coming all the way back up again. So it's fun to see.
One of the big tributes, I guess, was getting recognized by GM, allowing you to the museum to actually showcase their collection. I mean, you've seen those cars before, but I haven't seen them outside the museum before.
From the GM Heritage Collection, the Y Job, one of the most famous cars of all time. It was the first sort of concept car that showed what was going to be coming in the next 10 or 15 years, and it all came to fruition that way. And of course, the Firebird 3, the jet cars, these are all cars that have been locked in GM's vault. They never ever released them, and they sent them here to us for what was it, 3 months?
3 months.
3 months.
Michael Simke was great.
Yeah.
Give you an idea of the value. You could put 6 cars in a hauler, but they would only let 2 go in each truck because the insurance limit was $30 million per truck. And so these are irreplaceable pieces. There is actually a mid-engine Corvette. Now that we have a C8, a real mid-engine, how long ago was that prototype?
Well, that was the 90s. It was the 90s. I mean, Arcus Duntov wanted to build a mid-engine Corvette since the 50s. But sometimes, you know, it's funny. It's like Harley Davidson and Porsche. They don't want to mess with the formula. Remember, Porsche went to the 944. And then they went 928. Not quite the successor. People just wanted the 911. So sometimes you get stuck by tradition. You're afraid to move forward. But I think GM took a huge chance, and they built this car for $60,000. We have one here. It's in a glass booth on display, so people come and sit in it and get a feel for it and see what it looks like. And it's a great American achievement. I mean, to build a car like that for 60 grand, which has all the features of the European exotics, you know, it's not a torque converter, it's a double clutch 8-speed, you know, there's nowhere where they cut corners. I don't even know how they build it that cheap.
And the paint is amazing to look at, the quality. So, and it's free to see. So
it's free to see, all over there in the village. Just before we let you go, what do you hope people walk away from this week and say about this inaugural year? We'll talk again on Sunday when we've been through the next 3 days. People are walking around right now, Nick, saying, you know, like Tommy said, it was a natural to be here. I can't believe it took so long for there to be this kind of event. Everybody's also saying some of your judges, 40 judges, Dong's put together some of the most formidable judges in the world. There's no fluff judges like me at Amelia Island. These are real judges.
Those kind of old with the $100 bill. No. These are guys from Germany and Italy, and it's fun.
Totally put together. What do you hope people say though as they walk away, especially at the gathering? Here we are, first
day. The most important thing people say is, I had fun.
Yeah.
I want to tell my friends about it, and what's next? What's next year going to look like? Because this will be an annual event, and I think it's really important that they look at it and they see the way we enjoy cars. Jay and I, we could sit and talk cars for 2 hours, but sometimes it's more important to transcend all the technology and the iPhones and all the other stuff and just be able to sit with somebody and remember when you rolled around in the back of your dad's station wagon because you and your brother were in the way back and all the seats were taken. Forget seat belts. That was something that you tucked in.
Where the exhaust heated the floor up?
Sometimes. And there was no carpet. So.
And this isn't one of these Concours where guys are pulling blades of grass out between the treads with tweezers. Most of the cars have been driven, even the Bugattis. I saw guys in Bugattis from the 30s driving here on the highway to the event. Guys that live locally, because if you're in Massachusetts, boy, to go to Pebble Beach, that's a long haul. Whereas here, it's just a couple of hours. So you get all these East Coast cars, many of which I have never seen before, only because New England's had, I think, my God, Waukee, California, that kind of, so it's funny. So there's just pockets of the country where the cars don't really leave that area, and this is one of them. It was especially in the 20s and 30s, it was a wealthy area, so a lot of really expensive and cool cars were bought here, and put away.
Yeah.
And
They're
now
kind
they're
of being
all
released now. People are okay to
they're
drive
coming
around.
out for this event.
Well,
That makes it great fun.
Jay makes a really important point. There's a lot of car collections in California. There's a lot of cars in California, and they're open, they're out, the cars are moving. In New England, you have half the year where the cars are put away, I mean, really put away. But there's a lot of great car collections in New England that are in somebody's garage or barn. And they don't come out and they don't show them to anybody. And all of a sudden there's an event like this and they're like, okay, I can bring my car. It's so fun. I mean, we want people to have fun, be excited, and share that with each other.
I went for a bike ride earlier this morning. I talked about the audaciousness of doing what you've done in year one. All the great events around the world have taken years to build to what they are today. But I was riding my bike, and there was a Ford GT and a new GT 500 pulling here, and then 2 Bugatti Veyrons drove up, and then a Carrera GT. Then I went past the Bugatti house and the McLaren house. It's unbelievable. I can't wait for the next 3 days. I'd like to thank you for being the energy and putting the team together.
Yeah, he's done a wonderful job. I mean, you can never do these things. You can only do it too soon. You can never do it too late. So, you know, you watch, but it's true, you watch all the other events around the world and see, well, how can I make mine different? How can I improve it? What's going on? And that's what we try to do. Try to get more young people, more inclusiveness that way. That's one way to do it. And not necessarily all Duesenbergs and Lamborghinis. I mean, I see Corvairs here, I see Common Gears, I see just unusual cars that may not be the most valuable thing, but touch people in a way because their mother had one, or they went to school every day and wanted, whatever it might be. And it's fun to hear the story.
Everyone has a story, and actually, a few weeks ago, we were here, and you'll see these features during the show. I got to drive. You know, I've never driven a Packard. I've never driven, you know, one of the old Cadillacs or a Duesenberg or a Bugatti. Your Type 57 I fell in love with. I got to say that was the highlight for me of all cars I've ever driven. But I also drove your ENZO, and we're about to show a feature, but the ENZO around the streets of Newport was a bit like a Ducati around your living room. You know, it was like, it was the most extraordinary car. One of the things about that was 4.2, 0 to 60, and it was state-of-the-art latest, and that Corvette we're talking about does 3.8.
Right.
I mean, shows the world that we're in right now.
I drove the Tesla Roadster 1.8, 0 to 60.
That means you've got there before you even left.
That's right.
He also got TMJ after driving.
He did get TMJ. Well, listen, I'm actually going to take off now. You're going to watch. I'm going to go and find a really special guest out somewhere on a hill, a supermodel with 26 million followers. That's even more than Jay, but she is more attractive. Meanwhile, take a look as I took out Nick's ENZO the other day. While many supercars do it all, only one carries the most famous name in motorsport. Actually, when you think about it, 2 of the most famous names in motorsport, and that is the Ferrari ENZO. I've got to confess to a childlike enthusiasm when I get up close and personal with this beast behind me, because I always gauge a car like this. Would I have put its poster on the walls of the young Justin Bell's bedroom? And the answer is yes, I most definitely would have. Now, talk about the ultimate in a transfer of racing to road technology. There is technology on the ENZO that would have been banned in Formula One competition in the day. It has a carbon fiber tub, which gives it a rigidity that was unheard of in many ways. It has these huge carbon fiber discs and a lightning fast gear shift. When the ENZO hit the market, it really was polarizing to the car enthusiasts. Some people loved the design and others just couldn't stand it because the shape definitely is very angular, and that isn't just for show, it's definitely for go. The ENZO generates huge amounts of downforce, active aero. At 186 miles an hour, it's over 1,700 pounds of downforce, which means if you put it in a tunnel, you could almost go along upside down. But I wouldn't suggest trying. Oh, remember the whole thing about feeling like a kid? Well, I definitely feel like the luckiest young man in the playground right now. And that's the magic of a supercar. Just think of the sheer value of an ENZO. It cost almost $700,000 new.
Now these things trade for 4 or 5 times that. This actual particular one is one of only 4 black ENZOs ever imported to the US, as well as only one of 2 with the red leather seat inserts. It does everything properly on a car like this. By properly, I mean to the maximum levels of performance. As you can tell, I'm quite literally in a carbon fiber acoustic chamber. Who needs a stereo? Oh, in fact, the ENZO doesn't come with one. Why would you want one? I mean, there is, of course, the added attraction of the screams of either fear or happiness from your passenger. You know that feeling when you're too busy looking at the road ahead to look down at your gauges? Well, in a car like the ENZO, you don't actually need to. The indicators of when to shift come along in a series of lights on the top of the steering wheel here. So while you have a combination of a linear, an analog, and a digital dashboard, it really is the first supercar to start trending towards an all-digital dash, but giving you the information the most efficient way possible. It is the perfect package. I'm so excited. Just my only thing would be the next time I drive this, it better be at a track. Well, guys, I've moved out to the front rough point. I'm with Cedric Davey, who's marketing director with Bugatti. So what do we have here? Under this cover, what is everyone gathered around to see?
So this is a very special car that was ordered by the museum. So that car belongs to the museum. That was the very first car that was ordered with the Skyview, which is our latest option on the CHIRON, which is the glass panel in the roof.
Oh, nice. Now, I did come over here thinking I was talking to a supermodel, by the way, and Cedric is a very handsome man, but he is not quite doing it for me in the same way. You have a very special guest unveiling the car?
That's what I heard, exactly.
We're all here for that. So, hold on, it's under here. We're not allowed to look, guys, but let me have a look. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's very blue. So, in a minute, they're going to unveil. Now, for Bugatti getting so involved with this event, it's very symbolic because Bugattis were seen on the streets of Bellevue Avenue, I mean, all the way back until the 20s.
Absolutely. So this is a brand that's very rich in its heritage. Obviously, it was always a very high-end clientele, and we've seen last night a few races that were taking place here with Bugattis already at the time in the 20s, the 30s. So this is very special for us to be here. Absolutely.
Well, enjoy it. I hope Emily does turn up to take the cover off, because that would be a highlight for us all. And we want to see the car too, obviously. Guys, I'm going to head back over to you. But Tommy, there's a big crowd, and I don't think it's just for the Bugatti.
How about you and your friends just before dinner?
Well, JB, you teased it, but you never told us who it was. It is Emily Ratajkowski, so who's made famous in the Robin Thicke video with blurred lines. Do not check the unrated version at work, not suitable for work, not suitable for under 18. But Emily Ratajkowski is here to unveil that car, the newest car for the Audrain collection. There's been a couple other ones. The first Porsche Speedster delivered in America is also on its way to the Audrain Museum collection as well. So everywhere else, and then a little bit over here, as we see, it's right behind our set. And then you see the McLarens. On the left is a 570 Spider. In the middle, a 600 LT. Blue is a 720S Spider. And then if you pan a little bit to the right, you'll see the gold, the newest car from McLaren, which is a very, very important car. We're going to talk to Zak Brown about this car. That is the GT, which is giving people like Porsche and so forth some heart palpitations, because that car will be under $200,000. So just like I think we said it before, if Doris were to have a party today, a garden party, today I suspect many of those cars would be showing up. So there's also a one of one. A gentleman recognized me. It was funny. He came up. He was in a walker, and he said, I'm getting dementia, and I know you, but I don't know if I don't remember your name. And so I talked to him, and I told him my name. He said, "Oh yes, of course." And his son has a one-of-one Porsche that has a special 4-chrome paint that changes color. And as we're talking, have a seat here, Ben. We're looking at the beautiful cars here on the lawn, and I'm joined by our next guest, who is Ben Robinson, Chef Ben from Below Deck. I heard you over here. Last was ceviche. Were you making ceviche?
Yeah, we did a ceviche demo. It's just it's a really quick demonstration. Born from the islands where they don't have a lot of refrigeration and you know, they don't have electricity in some places, so it's a really quick, safe way of preparing fish.
So it's cooked in the juices,
yeah,
basically.
It is, exactly. The citric acid cooks it. That's exactly right.
Now, I got to tell you, I mean, if you 100 years ago, if you were a chef, you would have been in the basement.
Yes.
Timing's everything. You've had a good life. You're below deck on the boat, but you're quite famous now. You're getting to do things like this.
That's exactly right. In fact, I was a little bit worried. I knew I had the talent to be a chef when I was young, but I didn't know if I was going to be happy in basements for the rest of my life. So I really did land on my feet, and chefs are very lucky these days. We're almost like rock stars. So,
what's the best part of being a chef rock star?
Am I allowed to say? No, I'm just
the
kidding.
PG-17. I think that tells us exactly. You've got some lady fans, do you?
A couple here and there. No, it's just I'm in a very privileged position, and I worked very hard at being a yacht chef. So Bravo picked me up, and the rest is history. Really, we're just trying to roll with it, trying to.
Now, is this your logo? Is this actually a trademark?
Yeah. This is a registered trademark. That's the Chef Ben mug right there with the crazy hairstyle. People know me for that, and. We've got knives, aprons for sale, and I'm actually just about to develop a spice company.
I had a logo like that, but then I lost my hair, so I had to switch gears.
I know, that's my biggest fear, is losing my hair. I'm going to have to change logos.
Well, I hate to big time you, but Emily Ratajkowski is standing by with Justin Bell.
God.
So thank you for coming by, and you might want to head on over there. We'll see you.
Cheers, mate. Take care.
Cheers.
Thanks a lot. Cheers. Bye, guys.
Nice
Cheers.
to meet you. Well, we're here. We're such a obviously big fan of yours, and we were all excited. Everyone's pretending they've come to see the Bugatti, but I think that's just a little secret.
They should be excited about the Bugatti.
They certainly should. So coming here, can you imagine that the wealthiest woman in the world in 1920 lived here?
Yes.
What do you think she would have made of all these people in all these amazing cars today?
I think she would have loved it, but I mean, I'm pretty impressed by her and her house, so it's really exciting to be here.
And of course, the car that you're about to unveil, have you had a sneak peek before?
I have had a sneak peek. It's beautiful. It's really exciting.
And it's very blue.
Yes.
And do you think afterwards, are you a driver? Do you enjoy driving? Do you get to drive?
I'm a little nervous to drive this particular car. I'm not sure if I would want the insurance policy on that one.
Well, I know that very close to you right now is a former world champion race car driver that would definitely drive it for you.
Okay, well then maybe we can work something out.
Yeah, totally. My producer's just asking, are you a fan of cars in general? Because obviously you live in New York, don't you?
I split my time in New York and LA, but I grew up in California, so I started driving when I was 15. So yeah, I've always appreciated cars, especially classic cars. So it's exciting to kind of evolve and be into the new stuff and all that.
Yeah. So an old Bugatti or a new Bugatti? What would be your choice?
Well, I'm going to let this be like a crowd's choice, because they have to see the newest Bugatti in order to say that. So
perfect. You have a job to do. Well, thank you so much. Thanks for talking. See you later. All right, guys. Just I need a cigarette now.
Well, in case you haven't noticed, JB gets the plum assignments. I found out after the fact that he went to the Opus One wine dinner. I found out after the fact that he was interviewing Emily Ratajkowski. But you know what? Somebody has to do it. Justin does a fine job at that. So coming up, I'd like to invite on the man of the hour, Mr. Donald Osborne, who is the chairman of the Concours d'Elegance. Donald.
Nice to be here.
Now, this stuff just happens by itself, doesn't it?
It does. It's like, if anyone remembers the old TV show Bewitched, you know, everyone just stands around and they just wiggle their nose and boom, all this happened. As a matter of fact, there was nothing here this morning at, I think, about 7 o'clock. And with 3 snaps of the fingers, cars appeared, tents appears, flowers appears, the sun appears.
Well, I obviously it doesn't happen that way. You've been working on this for
2 years.
2 years, but you've been based here for.
I've been here for 2.5 weeks.
Right. Now, talk about what goes into it. The biggest part is you're like a curator. You're trying to get the right cars here, and the owners don't believe it's going to be. Here's the unveiling of this the collection's new car.
Yes, the new Chiron
with the glass panel roof.
And
Look
we
at
have to hope that the drapery falls neatly off the car and without the side view mirrors.
And there's Nick and Jay taking a look.
And Jay's saying, gee, it looks like a car. It looks like a Bugatti, and sort of yellow and French blue and brown and things. It's an amazing thing. Hello.
Well, hello. I made it back. I'm sorry to leave you so abruptly earlier, Tommy, but Emily smiled and said, I'll see you later. And all I could do was come out with that dumb remark about needing some sort of, I said I need a cigarette. I don't even smoke, Donald. But right now we see it. Look at it. What a sight.
A bit of a scrum around the CHIRON.
As Tommy was saying, all this, of course, happens on its own.
Yes.
So, the CHIRON dropped from the sky.
Yeah.
Actually sort of swam up from the ocean like James Bond and walked onto the lawn.
Talk about the cajoling. It's friendly. You know all these owners, but people are kind of wait and see. That you're like, new event in Newport. There's a pecking order with events, and like if Pebble calls, almost everyone will send. Talk about how that works without embarrassing anyone. Or
without mentioning any specific events around the world, it is obviously true that for a first-year event, people are slightly distrustful. However, I think one of the reasons why I'm not dislocating my shoulder by patting myself on the back, one of the reasons why I was asked to join the team is the fact that I do obviously know a lot of people, and people think, well, if Donald is involved in this, then it must be something worthwhile. And because I've been involved in, and I am involved in, a lot of automotive events around the country, around the world. And the first question I asked when they asked me to be a part of this is, does the world need another Concours? Yeah. My God. And the answer for me was no. But when I came here and really met with the team and took time to really tour around Newport, I was immediately convinced, because to me, Newport is not the backdrop for the Concours or for the gathering or any of the other events going on here. Newport is an integral part of what makes these things work and makes them happen. The tagline, as it were, history, luxury, sport, is not just a marketing line. It's not just sort of an idea. It's reality. I mean, you spend more than 5 minutes in this place and you feel it. And we're all here, we're passionate about cars of all types. And the fact that we can live this passion through a place like Newport that is so incredibly evocative, you can't help but feel excited being in these settings. And it's sort of natural that the things that excite us the most, cars, should be at home in these settings.
Yeah. I mean, as we said it to Jay and Nick a minute ago.
Jay here?
Jay's wanting. He asked if he can have his job back.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see how he does this weekend. He's an apprentice this weekend. Run tryout.
But as we were looking back on the cars behind us, Doris Duke, as she walked out of her front door, would have seen those three cars, the Cadillac and the Packard and the Rolls Royce outside the front. That wouldn't have been unusual to her, but it would have been very exciting because they were the latest cars of the day.
Absolutely.
And remember that their nostalgia and history to us, but it was the latest technology at the time. And how do you feel about that moment in time? 100 years later, we're still enjoying it, and that to me is mind-blowing.
People use the word timeless. And timeless actually has a very specific meaning and expression, and you feel it here in Newport. I mean, this is a town that goes back to the 17th century, and in America, that's old.
Yeah.
And yet, it's had sort of three great heydays. Back in the 1800s as a great sailing capital, during the 19th century as this place where these incredibly wealthy and successful entrepreneurs and families vacationed, built these great cottages in which they spent a full 6 weeks a year. And then even today, with the continuing history of sport in Newport, even the X Games. So, I mean, it's something that continues to grow and touch people's lives in a very direct way. And it's a lot of fun.
Now, one of the big things about this whole week and the museum's mission is to carry on the love of vehicles and cars, all things automotive. How did it start for you? Before you were the guy the sharp dresser that was involved in all the concours, your connection to cars, where did it start?
My connection to cars is slightly oblique. I was born and grew up in New York City, and that's a place where you don't need to have a car. My family didn't buy their first car until I was 12 years old, because you had the buses and subways. Nonetheless, I had two older brothers who were absolutely car crazy. They introduced me to cars. I became fascinated by them because I was always a great reader. So I devour the car magazines and read car books and just see this incredible world that I couldn't wait to discover for myself. And after 5 different careers, from opera singing to advertising and marketing communications, retailing, the restaurant business, I said I had to come back to cars, and here I am. I am absolutely living my total dream, as the two of you have for your entire lives.
The most interesting man in Newport.
Oh my goodness!
I don't want to go quite that far. There are a lot of interesting people here.
And you're going to sing? You're going to sing the national anthem on Sunday?
I will. I will be singing the national anthem at the start of the award ceremonies at the Concours d'Elegance on Sunday at the Breakers, and that'll be a great thrill and honor, as it is always for me.
Yeah, you know, it's always one of the things in our world, as I know you experience too, is everybody has a secret talent, and they have backstories. The stories, even if it's not a talent, it's a story that connects them to their car. It's the story that connects them to the moment that we're in. And when I heard out you were going to sing, having just heard you laugh, I knew you were going to be able to sing. And then we did some YouTube research and we saw that. The stories of these cars living on, storytelling being such a powerful part of it. The talk show for us was just us about the cars are amazing. We get to drive them. We get to drive them fast. But it's really the people that resonate through the decades, isn't it? I mean, every one of these, if they could talk. I mean, the back of Doris Duke's Packard. I mean, that was.
We might not necessarily want to hear what the back of Doris Duke's Packard needs to say, but yes, nevertheless, it is very true. There's an old movie, which is not one of the best movies ever made, called The Yellow Rolls Royce. I'm sure you've both seen it at some point in your life. If you haven't seen it, watch it again.
Yeah.
And it's one of these sort of Hollywood all-star extravaganzas, everybody from Omar Sharif to Rex Harrison. But it's the story of this Rolls-Royce town car and the lives that it touches as it goes from owner to owner to owner. And that's one of the great things about cars like this. Even the brand new cars that we're seeing behind us, they have a personality, they have a life. They will touch the lives of the very, very, very lucky new owners they have, and then for the second owners, they'll represent the culmination of a life's dream. And for the third owners, it will be something about rediscovering what was so special about this car in 2019 that made people say, wow, this is astonishing. And these stories live on. Hopefully, we leave these artifacts slightly better than when we found them, but they live forever, like Greek sculpture. I mean, it's amazing.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, these are the ones that are beautiful. Their stories live on. But some of my favorite memories are also cars that weren't great. You know, like Nick told us, you know, going to the Colorado River in the back of my family's Country Squire wagon before my dad started making more money. And the exhaust, now I know why it was so hot under the back of the thing. The exhaust went under with no, and sometimes it was your buddy's, you know, AMC Pacer in high school. But it's the thing that's so cool. It's almost one of the few things in society that's truly universal, that everybody has a connection to cars, right? Whether it's going to the dance or the concert or the beach or the mountains or the family vacations. And so that's what we're drawn to. It's obviously what you're drawn to. Thank you for joining us. We are going to leave you with, we're going to roll our feature on that Doris Duke Packard.
One of very few surviving late Packard 12s, fitted with truly custom coachwork, this 1938 12 was ordered as a chassis by Doris Duke, heiress to the American Tobacco Company fortune. At the age of 25, Miss Duke was already the world's wealthiest woman and was a prominent figure in society. The Duke 12 was custom bodied by Rolston, New York's most famous and costly coach builder, as a modern LANDAULET, a limousine with a convertible section over the rear seat. The body featured a one-piece windshield, as well as a lavishly appointed interior with a clock and speedometer. The design also featured storage for cocktail accoutrement in the rear passenger compartment. Controls for the radio were placed literally at Miss Duke's hand. Reportedly, the car was delivered to Duke Farms in Hillsborough, New Jersey, and was used to transport its owner on her regular trips between the Garden State and her summer cottage, Rough Point, here in Newport.
Automotive, Mike Fluid.
Well, here is the car. I mean, just look how beautiful it is, sitting outside the front of her house. And, you know, as you look at these, you definitely get a sense of the grandeur that was there. And I know I did that feature, but I hope, go online and try and find this. There's a photograph of a mid-20s year old Doris sitting in the back while the chauffeur drove her, and a bit like a paparazzi photograph, she had this startled look on her face. Lord knows what she was up to, but with her wealth and the empire and the cars, it must have been kind of fun. But here's something to also look at. When you think about the evolution, this car is the 1930 Duesenberg. It was sort of a trend and a style, and you could almost see, you can chart the progress of the cultural revolution in a way, because right now, the driver at the beginning would have sat in the front here, and this is called a LANDAULET, and in the back was where Doris would have been transported, open to the weather, and it's a lot nicer and pointed in the back with some purple carpet upholstery, rather like my tie. Beautiful headlamps. I mean, it's just a stunning vehicle. But we're going to walk over here a little bit as we make our way across. The most beautiful thing about the gathering is that we have such a combination of the past and this homage to what was amazing about being a part of that 20s and 30s, the Gilded Age of America. And then, of course, the modern side of things. Just turn around here. Look at that. That is the Jesko. That is the new Koenigsegg. It is in tribute to Christian Koenigsegg's father, and he's still with us, but he was such a driving force. It is just an extraordinary vehicle. It's got 1,150 horsepower, I believe, and everyone is sold. They're making about 150 of them. I don't know if everyone is sold, but with over 300 miles an hour, it's going to be a must. But here's a little quirky thing, if you just take a look. They used to have Princess and Baby who used to stroll the grounds here. Apparently they caused havoc with the groundkeepers because they were camels. And here they are, little tributes to them in topiary out the front. Whimsy is a part of the Newport lifestyle. But actually, I'm going to send you back over to the stage where Tommy is with a great friend of ours, Zak Brown, a former guest on this show when we were at the IMSA races. And Tommy, I don't know, what animal does Zak have in his garden made out of flowers?
Well, I mean, if I come back, I want to come back as one of Doris Duke's camels. They probably had they summered in Newport. Speaking of summering, summer's over. We're into the fall season. Yep. You are straight in from Sochi, Russia. Yep. But big news for McLaren F1. Tell us what the news is.
So we're moving to Mercedes Power in 2021, which we're quite excited. That's when we last won a race, was with those guys. I must say Renault's been fantastic, helping us get back to where we are, but ultimately felt Mercedes is the benchmark, both power unit and racing team. So power and reliability, and as the team that we ultimately need to try and beat, thought let's have the same power unit and eliminate one of those variables.
Now your role is the CEO of McLaren F1, but you're also involved in the collector car world. You've got kind of an amazing collection of race cars, the John Paul Jr. 935, one of the V8 Audi GTO cars, I think Pruitt car, on and on and on.
Yeah, but some stuff you raced against.
Some stuff I raced against. But why did you come to this event, even though this isn't in your purview of your job? Why this event? What do you think is so special about it? You've been to a lot of them.
Yeah, first of all, it's a great event, and I've only arrived this morning, but when you look at the atmosphere, it's
I'm allowed back. Hey, mate, how are you?
Good,
nice to see you.
And Nick brought me out here. I'd never been to Newport before, and when I landed and I looked around, I went, this place is amazing. And kind of feel like it's the East Coast of Pebble Beach, so to speak. And so I'm a big car guy, didn't want to miss it, see what year one was like. It looks great, and I think it's only going to get stronger, so I'll be back.
Yeah, and been involved in putting on events and marketing experiences and so forth. How big, how grand an ambition to do this in year one is it, with all the
This is, this is not easy to do, and a lot of these pop up, and I usually discount them. And I had not been here before, so I'm glad I came and visited, because I'm not sure, had I not been here previously, that maybe I would have taken a pass, because I don't get many free weekends. And when I saw the environment and then the people that were putting on the event, Nick and his team, I thought, no, this is going to be first class, and it definitely is.
Now, we didn't plan this, but we've got the McLarens lined up here. The GT is an important car. You're not over the road cars, but you work closely. Obviously, your activities support each other. Talk to us about the road cars. Your take. I mean, I think they've made it a big. They punched above their weight for not being around as long, very long.
So our 10-year anniversary is coming up. We're now doing about 4,800 cars a year. The cars are spectacular. You know, I mean, I think all these supercars, I love them all. You know, it's hard to say one's better than another. I think what they are is they have different elements to them, and I think what McLaren stands for is, I think technically it's probably the best. I am biased, but you know, from an out-and-out performance standpoint, and also its usability. You know, you can take it to Starbucks. It's kind of not a, you don't have to warm it up too long. It's not difficult to park. It's easy to see out of. So it's a very usable supercar. And we've got the Speedtail coming out, which we made 106 of. And we kind of can't build them fast enough. We're selling them like
it's not a halo car. It's what you do.
Yeah.
And there's a difference because, like you said, it needs to work really well. And that's the one comment you hear most about the 720 is it's a car you can live with every day.
Yeah. It's a spectacular car. I had a 675 LT, and now I've been fortunate enough to get a Speedtail, but those haven't been delivered yet, but they look spectacular, and they only go 448 kilometers an hour.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I mean, you actually, there's not many places you have enough road for that.
You're going to get to Starbucks quickly.
You are going to get Starbucks quickly. Well, that reminds me of that wonderful story about Thomas Bucher, who was one of the earliest adopters of the original McLaren in 95 and 94, 95, 96. And he was racing in the well, at the time, the World Sports Car Championship. And it was the first car that you could actually plug in the modem to the side of. Yeah. Sounds crazy now, you Bluetooth it out of the car. And McLaren called him up. Remember, not many sold really of those. They called it up and said, Mr. Michaud, we need to send a technician out to check on your car. In fact, we think it's pretty serious. We're going to have to bring it back. And he said, why? And he went, he was a big German industrialist. And he said, well, twice a day, I don't know, 5 days a week, you're hitting over 230 miles an hour. And he went, yeah, I go to work and back. And they're like, oh, okay, Mr. Michaud, we won't worry about that anymore. Obviously, for you being here at an event like this, you get to see them all. And as you said, Newport's such a special place. What do you think for McLaren, it's going to be one of those pivotal events that brings in owners? I mean, because your owner group, Tommy said it this morning, we were driving along, he went, God, McLaren do a great job of galvanizing their owners, again, considering it's a new club. You hope they're going to use this as a destination?
Yeah, I think so. I think this is going to be our big, it's a national event. I think people are going to be flying in from all over the place. But, we do a lot of stuff in Monterey. We see you guys obviously out there, and I think this is looks to me like it's going to be the East Coast version, and it's a huge market. It's not that far from Boston. It's a helicopter ride away from New York. If you happen to have a helicopter, I don't.
I know. Well, you did come in by helicopter once. I know that. I saw the video. Talk about business quickly. Formula One, that's a tough old world, isn't it? And you guys are working very hard to get yourselves into the right spot. But something that I don't think the average person understands is they're like their own industry, each team, isn't it? I mean, how many people actually touch your Formula One team?
950 people are responsible for. It's unbelievable, the size of the groups and the expertise, the intelligence. I'm the kind of a dumb guy walking around the factory, and it's fascinating, the sport. I'm pleased things like Netflix are now starting to show different parts of the sport. It's so fascinating. Sometimes it's fascinating on the track, sometimes it's not. It's always fascinating off the track, and I think with the new owners, we're starting to open up, show everyone what actually goes into these Formula One teams, and it's hard, and we got the new rules coming out in 21. We're closing the gap, but there's still a big gap, but we're going the right way. Perfect.
Well, we're drawing to the close on our first show here, The Gathering. What a beautiful way of celebrating the opening of Motor Week with Audrain here in Newport. I'm just disappointed myself that if I'd been born 100 years earlier, I think I would have been having a good time with Doris. I do think so. She would have appealed. The talk show would have appealed to her. But you know what? We have such a weekend of events ahead of us. You're not able to stick around for everything, are you?
No, unfortunately, John Della Penna passed away. The IndyCar team owner and great friend. So I'm going to be on a plane unexpectedly to be at his memorial tomorrow. Okay. Otherwise, I would have been here all weekend. But next year, I'll be here.
Yeah. Well, please pass on our condolences from obviously everyone at the talk show and here at Audrain, Newport Concours and Motor Week. We have such a big week coming up tonight. They have a John Legend concert, which 4,000 people. It's going to be like him playing in his living room. And tomorrow we start off with the Tour d'Elegance up on Pell Bridge. Tommy and I will be leading the way. Actually, we didn't get a car from McLaren. They wouldn't let us have the keys to the gold one behind, but we are driving a rather shiny Aston, I believe, over the top of the bridge. And then we're going to be coming live to you from the Concours Village at noon Eastern Time tomorrow. The gala tomorrow night, Masquerade Ball. The great thing is for Tommy and I, no one can see us because we will be in a full mask. And then, of course, that's sold out, and then we get ready for the concourse on Sunday. So, listen, we'll have a little
toast
bit.
The beginning of Motor Week. We've got some Whispering Angel rosé. I know you drink a lot of rosé over there in the south of France.
Yeah. Cheers.
And now, one of the things that Justin got to do besides talking to Emily Ratajkowski is he went up on a helicopter tour, and there is no better way to fully appreciate the scale and the spectacle and the beauty of Newport than from the helicopter. So enjoy this tour of Newport by the air.
Cheers. See you tomorrow. Bye.